Do you love movies of a certain age? Do you miss the days of VHS tapes and VCRs and video rental stores? Is the thought of another 80s movie being remade seem inconceivable? If you want to go back to school, back to the future, or even back to the beach, then the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast is for you. I'm Tim Williams, the creator and host, and on each episode, I'm joined by a guest co-host as we revisit a different 80s flick to discuss our first-time watch memories, iconic scenes, and even learn some behind-the-scenes stories along the way. New episodes drop every other Friday on your favorite podcasting platform. So make like a tree, get out of here, and go listen to an episode of the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast.
Welcome to this Moving Panels One Shot. Let's have a nerdy little conversation. And today we are going to talk about mutants in the MCU because apparently we already have them. And this is going to be a big spoiler warning for Miss Marvel. We will be spoiling some stuff that happens in Miss Marvel, and I think I kind of already did.
I was going to say that.
Oh, wow.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Oops. But I still put it out there. Spoiler warning. So yeah,
You've been
so
spoiled.
we've kind
But if
we've
you-
talked about this in several episodes here and there, and I've got Tim and Chad with me. We've talked about several times about doing an episode about how do we bring the mutants, how do we bring X-Men, especially after the Fox merger, how do we bring mutants and X-Men into the MCU, and it seems like it's a perfect time to talk about it because Miss Marvel ends with the revelation that Kamala is a mutant.
Yeah.
Or has
her,
a mutation,
Her powers
quote, unquote.
come from a mutation.
A mutation, yeah. She's a mutant. I mean, because Marvel and Kevin Feige hate Inhumans. So she's a mutant.
Apparently, yeah.
Or at least trying to forget about it. That's
Hey,
all.
I think, is it Marvel and Kevin Feige, or is it that the audience hated Inhumans? So, you know.
Oh, hated the Inhumans show. But that's the thing. Inhumans was a way for them to do mutants without doing mutants.
Right.
I mean, that's
Right.
all the Inhumans were in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay, so I have a
So,
question. Sorry.
Go ahead.
All right, so we're kind of jumping into this for the novices like me who don't have the comic background. So you've got so far in the MCU we've had Inhumans and Eternals. Now you add the mutants. I know there's differences, but were they so were they so clearly defined and differentiated in the comics that for the
Yes.
for the
Yes.
movies
Yeah.
are they
Yes.
going to have to again make sure that people understand the differences?
I don't think they're going to have to do much about
No.
differences, because I think it's pretty clear that they're not making the Inhumans the comic book Inhumans. So they're
Okay.
just not going that route. So and so far anyways, it seems like they're not making mutants quite the same thing either. So we'll
Yeah,
we'll
it's too early
see
to
moving
tell.
forward. Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, and that's what we're going to kind of discuss so just a quick little background about Inhumans. So what Inhumans are is there's an alien race. Pretty much they are humans who possess alien DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And when they are exposed to something called Terrigen, the alien DNA is awoken, and that's what gives them their powers.
Yeah, it
But they have to be
manifests
exposed. Yeah, they have to be exposed to Terrigen for it to happen.
Yep.
Okay,
Whereas a mutant, they're born with it.
right.
They're born with a mutated X chromosome, which is why they're called the X-Men. A mutated X chromosome that then manifests around puberty, and when it manifests, it provides them with some sort of ability or power or deformity or something like that. So that's the difference between mutant and
Inhuman.
an Inhuman. And Eternal is just like they're kind of like the Asgardians. Like they're kind of an alien race that has served as kind of like gods for Earth and all. So I'm fine with them not doing Inhumans at all and making them this kind of, I guess, hybrid is where we're going. Because I still believe that the bracelet that Kamala was wearing had Terrigen of some sort.
Yeah, so to clarify what Laramy's talking about, again, to the novice, in the books, Miss Marvel is an Inhuman. So that's kind of the big deal about her being the first mutant, is that it's a little bit of a like, whoa, what are we going with this? Are we just throwing the Inhumans mythology out altogether? Is she going to be one of the new X-Men? Like, how's this going to shake out? So it's, some people are arguing that it's a little unfair to the character, that sort of thing, but I mean,
but people had been complaining about that character since day one.
Well, that's the thing. That actress has done such a phenomenal job.
She was amazing.
She is so charming. I just, part of me kind of wants to bite back at some of that complaint. Like, put her in the X-Men. She can hold her own. She did a great job. She can play the Jubilee role. She can be Spider-Man as the young viewpoint in the Avengers. But anyways, like, that's just kind of my chip on my shoulder about those complaints. But
no, both her and the actress that played America Chavez. I mean, just. It amazes me that was their first big, major acting roles. Yeah. And I'm just like, both were amazing. Yes, she was amazing. And of course, it helps that she's a huge comic book fan to begin with.
Yeah, super cool story.
But yes, they alter her powers so that it's more of, people always compared it to kind of Green Lantern, where it was more like she was manifesting these constructs. These like crystal constructs, instead of in the comic book where she pretty much just has Mr. Fantastic's powers. She can stretch and grow big. Although, and again, spoiler, even if you haven't seen the last episode of Miss Marvel, spoiler, didn't she actually stretch in that final episode?
It seems kind of like she built like a suit. But she does.
But it looked like,
that was kind of cool. They like homaged the comics a little bit with her, like,
she even says big
limbs. Yeah, like, it's really cool. But it did seem to me like she was in kind of a bubble she created of the, what do they keep calling it? Her, like, light power.
Yeah.
But I thought that was cool, and I don't get. People getting so upset about varying from the comics with certain stuff. I mean, I guess we just all have our threshold as fans of what you can do to the thing that we enjoy or love, but it's mostly been pretty cool, the stuff that they've done, with all the different characters. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think, like you're saying, I think especially with Miss Marvel, she's not as popular of a character as a Captain America, or
she's not Spider-Man.
She's not Spider-Man. So I feel like they have a little more liberty to kind of play around with her origin story or her backstory more so than they could without as much backlash. But
so, as much as I usually kind of dump on the DC people a little bit, I did think that DC kind of beat Marvel to the punch on this one, with Watchmen really bringing to light the Tulsa massacre and that. And then Marvel maybe took a little note out of that book, and
I felt the same way
with Miss Marvel. So
yeah, I had the same thoughts watching Miss Marvel. Yeah,
it's kind of interesting though, seeing popular media having an effect on people in a positive way like this, though, because both of those incidences, if I'm honest, I didn't know anything about either one, and I'm a history buff. Like, I enjoy learning about this kind of stuff. I had never spent any time learning about the split between India and Pakistan. I knew in theory that it happened, kind of thing, but it was very interesting.
Yeah, I will say I think I watched Miss Marvel more because my daughter wanted to watch it. I was going to watch it eventually, but she really wanted to see it because they pumped it really heavy on on Disney Plus, and it kind of fits her demographic anyway with the kids. And it was you could tell was made for that age
Yeah.
group. So
Yep.
it was cool for me to like watch that, and of course as an adult take the history part of it, but then to know that my daughter now is going to know that information much younger than I did, and to know and have that kind of an understanding of that culture that I really as an adult don't know that much about. So
That's pretty
kudos to them for being smart enough to do that and bring that story out for sure.
So piggybacking on your smart marketing, them designing this for kids.
Yeah.
Is that going to play into what we see as they bring mutants into the MCU? Are we going to see it brought in as a younger crowd? Like,
are they going to be kids? Yeah. Which is where the X-Men started. I mean, in 1963 when X-Men, they were supposed to be like teenagers. Mm-hmm. The whole thing is it's Xavier's school for the gifted.
Right, but
they are...
Is this the way they get the next generation into Marvel movies is what I'm getting at, though. Are they going to young it down? And because we've seen... You can do teenagers in an adult stuff. I mean, a few of us saw the New Mutants, so but
a few of you.
But are you going to make kid shows like young adult shows? We'll call it that.
Yeah,
like Miss Marvel.
Yeah, I think that would be a good way to go. I mean, doing and we can talk about this too. Do you do the X-Men we know? Do you do Cyclops, Wolverine? Well, all right, let me backtrack. Because, Chad, you and I have talked about this. Because do you bring the female Wolverine in?
Yeah.
And, do you make her...
Laura.
Give us a younger Wolverine? But do you bring in characters like... right now my mind's just going blank, but because now I'm focused on all of the X-Men animated series people. But do you bring in characters like Jubilee as a young character? Do you bring in Cannonball? I know they had him in the X-Men First Class, but do you bring in kind of that group that could be the younger group? And just ignore the core, X-Men 2000 movies and the animated series. Do you do that?
So
I'm honestly asking.
Yeah. I think they're going to go. Sorry, me and Tim both go.
No.
I kind of think that they're going to do similar to how they did Spider-Man once they finally acknowledged, the Sam Raimi movies. So I think it's just going to be a different universe. I mean, you have that very easy tool to use. And some people might think that's a cop-out, but I think that's a perfectly valid way, in the continuity that we already have to explain whatever characters you decide to bring to the screen. So,
yeah, I was going to say, I think it would be smart for them to bring in new characters first, because I think X-Men is just a little too fresh, at least on our generation's minds. And then, like you said, if you're going to kind of bring in the new generation, giving them new characters, and then for, like this show with Miss Marvel, you've got kids watching it with the parents. They're like, the parents are like, well, it's a Marvel show. And the kids are like, well, it's kind of a Disney show. I mean, really, it's the first one, I think, kind of merge those two worlds together a little bit more succinctly.
Because I'll even say, going back to what y'all were talking about, with all the cultural stuff, which was great, and and my daughter getting exposed to that, me sitting there as the comic book nerd, I'm going like, okay, wait, I don't know who the clandestine are, and I'm I'm Googling who the clandestine are, or I'm trying to find the connection that Jen has with Marvel Comics, and so they had me sitting there doing research and discovering more stuff. But at the same time that we're talking about the young ones, let's go ahead and bring this in, because we now know more about Wakanda Forever, and we know we're going to have Namor. And Namor, I mean, if you go by comics, he's the first mutant in Marvel.
Right.
and he's a fully grown man in Wakanda Forever. So clearly we do have, if they're going to make it, of course he's half mutant, if you want to say, but because I don't know if Atlanteans have the ability to be mutants, so that in comes from his human side. But and he's gonna have his winged feet, we've seen it, so and that's his mutation. So we are going to have older mutants,
right?
So
yeah, they're not all going to be teenagers to begin with. Yeah,
we can acknowledge that Logan
could be
was
around.
Wolverine at some point. Yeah, he was, and so we can have X-23 be the new Wolverine and go ahead and do the younger, because that's where I really am, is the casting of like Wolverine. Like, how do you cast Wolverine and not upset everybody?
I don't. You're
unless it's X-23, unless it's another Wolverine.
Yeah,
and then there'll still be people upset.
There's no way they're going to bring that. Nowhere they're going to. Sorry, there's no way they're going to introduce a new Wolverine without there being some. It's going to upset somebody. Yeah. But I want to throw this in there because so we've seen Miss Marvel, we've seen Wakanda Forever, but also we've seen this new She-Hulk ad promo that came out at Comic-Con, where there's all these abilities. They never said mutants, but why do we always all of a sudden have all these other quote unquote superheroes or special powers? So I'm wondering, is that going to be another way they're going to introduce the mutants in as well?
No, that's I hadn't even thought about that yet, but yeah, that's and it is the next show coming, isn't it? So
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I mean, that makes sense that you would follow right into that and start building a new mythology and everything. Yeah. So, and
I will say, I was reading an article right before we started recording about explanations about the the mutants or whatever, and so supposedly based on this article, that the additional that part of the script about the mutation was a very last minute ad on the show.
You could tell that. Yeah.
Well, it was for sure hidden. The actress has talked about it. That
she was the only one that knew.
Yeah.
And when she read that word,
freaked out a little.
She was like, "We're
going
really
there.
Going there."
Yeah. So it just, once again, the connectivity of Kevin Feige and what he's doing, which I know that was we've seen that previously, where I've heard stories where you've got a group working on this one movie, and they say Kevin Feige will pop in the door and say, "Hey, Black Panther, work that in." And we're 2/3 of the way through the movie, now we got to add Black Panther in.
Right.
Talking about Civil War, but stuff is happening because they're getting, they're planning so far in advance. They're kind of working their way backwards of where do we bring different things in. So, but also knowing that She-Hulk's kind of been in production for a while, so. But they're,
Well, you bring up She-Hulk. So, what's the actress's name? Jamil? No, I'm not talking about.
Oh, okay.
I'm not talking about Titania.
Not She-Hulk.
Maslany.
Okay.
Yeah. Jamili Jamil, who you see in the trailer. She's from The Good Place. For those who, she's playing Titania. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of funny to see her. She's playing Titania on She-Hulk, and then they announced that there's going to be Avengers Secret Wars. Because Titania is introduced in the 1984 Secret Wars. That she's just this regular person that Doctor Doom does an experiment on and makes her super strong. Mm-hmm. So if she's appearing in the She-Hulk movie, going off of what you're saying...
TV show.
They got to... TV show. Mm-hmm. They got to explain where she gets her powers from.
Yep.
And so do you alter her story to where she is a mutation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that would make sense. Or it's
or do you introduce Doctor Doom?
Right, because we know we're getting Fantastic Four, so
yeah, you see Keanu Reeves as Doctor Doom, so the obvious answer.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm thinking here. Like, where do we go? Do we reveal some? Do we alter characters like we're talking about right now? Mm-hmm. You alter Miss Marvel not only by powers, but instead of Inhuman, she has a mutation.
Right.
Do we alter Titania to make her have a mutation? do we bring in that very loose, Chad, you may know what I'm talking about here, that very loose thing that was said one time that Hawkeye was a mutant.
Right, yeah. I think that's all very valid. They're phasing Hawkeye out, so whether or not they'll ever actually, on the face of it, confront that, I don't know. But I could definitely see that being a thing in passing. That Nick Fury, through his tests as he brought SHIELD agents in, knew that was the case with Hawkeye, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be kind of a cool way to do it, and it again, differentiates the MCU from the comics a little bit, which I think Kevin Feige likes to do sometimes. I think he clearly.
I mean, he's said they use the comics as a
jumping off.
How do you say jumping off point?
Yeah.
Like they're not adapting the stories.
Right.
They're just using them to give them ideas.
Yeah. So I could very well see all of that occurring. I hope, and again, like I just give Kevin Feige a lot of credit, so I'm along for the ride one way or the other. But I hope that it's going to be sooner rather than later, and I don't mean that in an impatient way, but just in a storytelling way. I hope we don't get that as a cliffhanger that doesn't get answered for a while.
Right.
So with that being said, let's talk about Deadpool. I mean, Kevin Feige has said he is interested in Deadpool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then they just, during San Diego Comic-Con, put the Deadpool movies on Disney Plus.
And Logan.
And Logan, yeah.
It's like, come on.
Logan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do they...
That's not by accident. That's what we know, right?
Yeah. So do they do something there? Like, because how do you bring Deadpool into the MCU unless he's already been there?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's doable.
Which we thought...
Yeah.
We thought they would do with the Multiverse of Madness, but then they didn't. So
so much they didn't do that we thought they were going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the,
That one gets tricky though, because I mean, Xavier's school exists in the Deadpool movies. Like, even though you only see 2 X-Men that are relatively low-ranking X-Men.
No, you saw the whole team in that room and then he shut the door.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, that it is problematic. So I don't know. I don't know how they bring him into things. That's going to take somebody way smarter than me.
Yeah, but I think with Deadpool's perspective, the meta perspective, I think they can have fun with it and kind of. Like, there's a way they can spin that to where, like, it seems like it doesn't make sense, right? You're right, it doesn't. And they'll just move on to the next thing. It's like, it's an easy it's an easy way to fix.
Yeah, like he's just there.
Right.
Like, he's just there. Which...
They just go full, Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe, just that he knows that he's a comic book character. Yeah.
Right.
That'd be funny.
Well, have him kill off the Fox universe.
Right.
And then he has to move on. So
that would be
amazing.
Didn't he kill Green Lantern in the second one or something like that? Or
No, he killed Ryan Reynolds while he was reading the Green Lantern script. Yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen it, so that popped in my head all of a sudden.
We also have zombies.
He killed the original Deadpool.
Right.
Yeah, we got Marvel Zombies coming.
Zombies is coming, so I mean, anything is on the table at this point. Like,
So, and going to what Tim was talking about with the meta, breaking the fourth wall and all that Deadpool does, the new She-Hulk trailers are even showing that she's going to do it, which she does in the comics. Yeah. In fact, to my knowledge, she did it before Deadpool. Yeah. So that aspect's in there. That aspect's in there of, I mean, imagine She-Hulk talking to the camera and then Deadpool talks back.
Yeah.
That could be interesting.
Which now makes me wonder, will we see a Deadpool cameo in She-Hulk?
No, because we want it. I'll be honest, no, because we want
Yeah.
it. It's not going to happen.
I'm just wondering, just like I said, the timing. It's intentional. They drop those shows to give you time to watch them before something happens.
I honestly think if we're going to get our full-on mutants, and that includes Deadpool, it's going to come. I hate to say this for Ryan Reynolds to be 5 years older, but it's going to come after Phase 6. I think it might be teased throughout, but I do not think we will get full-on mutants in the MCU until after Secret Wars.
Yeah. Because that was something that someone else and I were discussing this past weekend about, we saw the mutants mentioned in Ms. Marvel, but there was no X-Men movie, show that was announced, but there was Fantastic Four, so...
we got Phase 6, in which we currently only have 3 movies.
So I'll disagree a little bit in that there's some wiggle room, especially with the oh man, now I'm losing track of all the Comic-Con announcements, but the one of the 3 branches of the MCU that is going to end in the big Kang the Conqueror showdown. If you could easily bring in a time-shifting mutant, or a mutant that has time abilities, which it kind of seems like Ms. Marvel does. Wink, wink.
True, yeah.
That could be a big key in defeating Kang the Conqueror for, very on-the-nose reasons. So I think that Kang in particular gives an easy window into... where you could bring mutants in that are meaningful prior to the next phase, and once you open that Pandora's box, I think it just kind of gets easier. Like you can start introducing tons of things where people didn't know because of all the craziness going on with the snap and all this other stuff.
Right.
That, these guys were just flying under the radar, kind of thing. So. And I mean, we're clearly getting Matt Murdock has been brought back in. There's going to be a lot of kind of lower level guys that have been here doing stuff, but not at the Avenger level of things.
Right.
Are getting more and more introduced. So I think you can bring mutants in.
Yeah, and that was what my thought was. I think mutants can definitely be brought in and be part of the overall story without having their own movie. You know what I'm saying? We don't need an X-Men movie to have X-Men or have mutants in these phases that are coming up. Laramy has something important to say.
Well, because I'm thinking about what Chad said about you introduce a mutant with time bending abilities to battle Kang. They did announce that before the Kang Dynasty Avengers movie is Fantastic Four.
Yep.
And who is a mutant that has time ability? It's Nathaniel Richards.
Oh yeah.
Who is a variant of Kang.
Yeah.
In fact, he's the original variant of Kang. Yeah. And so, I mean, do you... I still think that's what I'm saying, though. Do you introduce them, but then you don't go full mutant, though, until after Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars? So you could have Nathaniel Richards. You could have Nathaniel Richards in,
I think they're getting snuck in under our noses. I think you're going to see more than is being alluded to by titles of movies coming.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He showed us a lot, but he didn't show us everything. And
right,
we also know that they're going to shuffle stuff anyway. Yeah.
Even I really, really was waiting to slide the whole Kang and Ms. Marvel thing in there, because I've been thinking about that a lot, because that was not critical to the story that happened, in the sense of her being able to time travel did not affect the show. It didn't lead to the big showdown, all that sort of stuff. But I think that it's there for a reason. There were numerous other devices they could have used to tell that same tale. So she's a time traveler. Kang is the ultimate time traveler. There has to be a showdown coming between these two characters.
Right.
And especially in the Marvels, which so she is getting her own movie. Obviously shared a little bit, so we'll see her expanded. And I'm wondering what other characters they're going to do in a similar fashion, just kind of sneaking stuff in under our noses.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna kind of, this is a hill I'm gonna die on. I just think with the focus of this saga, is it's cosmic. It's all cosmic, and so even though, yes, Miss Marvel has that ability, I just think the focus is going to be on the cosmic aspects of the Marvels.
What about
and then
we do have Captain America 4 coming, and
where they're going to introduce Hulk Hogan and Kevin Nash and Scott Hall.
But they
the New
did
World Order.
They did introduce some new minor heroes and hinted at other stuff going on with the Falcon and Winter Soldier. You could bring in some mutants in that realm of things. Like, he could have inspired other guys with that whole closing speech he gives at the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So other heroes, kind of take up their mantle at that point because he inspired them to, that I could see other venues going on is all I'm saying. So I don't know.
Because I don't think we know anything about New World Order. Do you think this Captain America with Sam Wilson, do you think it's going to be a political thing? Do you think it's going to be a real world thing? Or do you think New World Order is going to be some sort of like alien invasion?
I think they're fleshing out a little bit more of the political argument they had during the Falcon Winter Soldier run. So just what is, I think they're going to argue a little bit more with what is government's place, what is bad government, what about when a good government, quote unquote, does bad things,
So you think this will be more of the connection that will then lead to Phase 5 ending with the Thunderbolts?
I do, yes.
Okay.
Well, I mean that's clearly where we got several of the Thunderbolt characters from, arguably the most important with Baron Zemo. So, I think that's a natural endpoint for that leg of the Marvel tripod.
So you think if they're gonna kind of give us some mutants, it's going to be in that branch of this saga?
I think that's the most obvious place to introduce them. I mean, again, if I was good at writing this stuff, I wouldn't be talking to you guys on a podcast.
Yeah.
No, I think you'll see them in several places. I think, clearly we saw it in Miss Marvel. But I think that's the one we'll probably get the bulk of them come out at. Because I think it's the most terrestrial bound, to your point about this being mostly cosmic stuff. So.
Yeah, and that's where Shang-Chi will connect through. And
I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah.
I mean, because they already had Abomination showed up in Shang-Chi, and he's definitely going to be a Thunderbolt.
Well, and what's Adam Warlock? Because
see, that's the cosmic side, though.
Right, but it's a
but
weird tie-in.
I get what you're saying. How do you get his origin if you're not dealing with the Infinity Stones anymore?
Yeah. So
yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. We're excited about it. Phase 4, Phase 5, leading into the loosely known Phase 6. We at least know we're headed towards Fantastic Four, Avengers Kang Dynasty, Avengers Secret War, which Secret War could just be what brings it all together and merges it all. Very similar to the 84 run, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see where that goes from there. But thanks, Tim and Chad, for this conversation. And I think I'm going to do like Miss Marvel did. I think I'm gonna end and talk about maybe we will see mutants in the MCU. And then right there where I paused, I'll have the X-Men the animated series theme kind of play in the background.
It was so subtle.
All right.
It was so great.
Yeah, but it was so
subtle
great.
I missed it. Laramy had to tell me about it.
Yeah.
It was very subtle.
All right, well, thanks everybody for listening. Rate it and review us. Give us that 5-star rating. Tell everybody else to listen to the Moving Panels podcast, listen to the 80s Flick Flashback podcast with Tim. In fact, Tim, you got anything coming up that you want to pitch right
we're
here?
Just the beginning of season 5, so we've already done One Crazy Summer, Lost Boys, Big with the first Tom Hanks movie. How have I done an 80s podcast without doing a Tom Hanks movie? But got a lot of great stuff coming up, getting ready to hit into the holidays. So of course we'll do some good horror movies in October, moving into the Christmas movies late November, December. So it's a great time for 80s movies. And I'm going to sneak in a few Forgotten 80s Flicks, which is a little series I'm doing on TikTok and Instagram. So a little lesser known movies that have been forgotten over the years. I'm going to sprinkle into some bonus episodes coming up, so look out for those as well.
Exciting. All right, thanks guys. Thanks everybody for listening. But for today, for Moving Panels, I'm Laramy Wells, and I'll see you on the other side of the page.
What seems to be the problem, pal?
There's just so much pain in the world, so many issues. I don't think I can bear it.
Hell, friendo, it sounds like you could use a dose of pop culture roulette.
Pop culture roulette? What's that? Some sort of pop culture themed podcast or something?
That's right, sonny boy. When hope seems far, dive into some PCR.
But I already get my entertainment news from Variety.
Huh, that's pretty good. If you're a chucklehead, PCR gives you news you need, condensed, unfiltered, and raw, from 3 nerds who know a little something about something.
Wow, okay, sign me up.
That's the spirit. Pop Culture Roulette. New episodes every Monday, available on all major podcast directories.